The story of railways during the Japanese colonial period begins with Japan taking over the Qing Dynasty Railway. Japan's railway experience dated back to 1872, so by the time Taiwan was ceded following the First Sino-Japanese War in 1895, Japan already had 23 years of railway construction experience. Upon taking over, the Japanese discovered that Lu Mingchuan's railway was almost unusable, leading to an extensive overhaul of the system. In colonial Taiwan, mountainous terrain and rivers divided the land into isolated areas where rickshaws and ox carts were the main forms of transportation, making travel very challenging. After occupying Taiwan, one of the Japanese government's key policies was to complete a circular railway network around the island and build branch lines from important hubs, facilitating military control and economic development. The Western Trunk Line became the most crucial segment of this island-wide network. Taiwan's railway originated under Lu Mingchuan during the Qing Dynasty, but the foundation of its extensive network was established during the Japanese colonial period. After Japanese forces entered Taipei City Wall in 1895, the first Governor-General of Taiwan, Kobayama Sukanori, ordered engineer Koyama Yasamasa to inspect Taiwan's railway system. In the Taipei Railway Workshop, Koyama found 3 locomotives, only one of which could be repaired for use. Following a test run on June 9, 1895, rail traffic between Taipei and Keelung officially resumed the next day. Although the Taipei-Keelung Railway was reopened, the poor condition of the tracks and trains allowed for only one round trip per day, far from meeting the Japanese military's needs. In one incident, an overloaded train couldn't move without workers pushing it to continue. On June 14, 1895, Kobayama Sukanori took the train from Keelung to Taipei, a journey of just 28 kilometers, which suffered 2 derailments and took 7 hours to complete. The Japanese mockingly referred to the Qing-era railway as the pushing train and the tuberculosis train. After surveying the railway between Keelung and Taipei, Japanese engineers found uneven tracks, sharp curves, and steep slopes throughout. This led to reconstruction efforts, including the rerouting of the Shirchioling section and improvements along the Taipei-Keelung route. The Shirchioling Tunnel was rerouted in 1895, and in 1896, a new tunnel was excavated 1 kilometer east of the old route, the Zuzaleo Tunnel. Completed in 1898, the Zuzaleo Tunnel replaced the old Shirchioling Tunnel, which had only been in service for 7 years. In addition to the Shirchioling rerouting, other projects began in May 1896, including realigning the winding path of the Zuzaleo Tunnel, rerouting the Zangshuan Tunnel, and reworking the Wudubaifu section. By December 1896, 2 round-trip trains operated daily between Taipei and Keelung, increasing to 4 daily round trips after completion in 1899. In addition to the reconstruction of the Keelung-Taipei section, the Japanese military restored the Shinshu to Dahoku section to facilitate the transportation of food supplies. Early anti-Japanese militias frequently attacked railway facilities, prompting the Japanese to set up military headquarters and garrisons at stations such as Shuifangyo, Haishanku, Taizeyuan, Zhongli, and Dahoku. Managed by the Railway Corps, Taiwan's railways initially served as military lines, dedicated to transporting military resources. Starting in 1896, limited civilian access was permitted as long as it didn't interfere with military operations. The Taipei-Shinshu Railway realignment was due in part to the wooden Taipei Bridge being washed out twice in 1897 and 1898. Additionally, the steep grades and winding roads around Gairunling made travel challenging. As a result, the original route through Haishanku, Daliking, and Gairunling to Taizeyuan was realigned to run through Bangka and Fangqiao Town to Taizeyuan. In August 1898, a wooden bridge over Fengshan River was also washed out. Before the railway bridge could be restored, southbound trains terminated at a newly established station, Xinsha, at Fengshanki. Passengers then took a boat across the river to reach Hsinchu. During this period, a temporary light railway was laid between Xinsha and Hsinchu to maintain transport. During the Japanese colonial period, the government aimed to establish a circular railway network across Taiwan. In 1897, the Railway Corps conducted planned surveys along 5 routes, eliminating impractical ones, such as those blocked by mountains with high technical challenges or routes passing through indigenous territories, which were prone to attacks. According to the Railway Corps' survey results, the coastal line passed through numerous river mouths, making construction technically challenging. Additionally, if enemy forces approached from the sea, they could quickly come ashore and seize control of the railway. As a result, this route was set aside. As for the mountain line, it was closer to areas where goods were produced, making it more convenient for transporting materials. Thus, the decision was made to proceed with the mountain line. In 1898, the government was originally inclined to have the private sector build the main railway line. In January 1898, Japan experienced an economic depression. The private sector's investment capability was insufficient. Thus, under the leadership of Go Shinpei and others, the government decided to build the main railway line officially. Funding for major construction projects in colonial Taiwan required dual approval from both the Taiwan Governor-General's office and the Japanese Imperial Diet. With budget shortfalls in 1898, Go Shinpei proposed the Taiwan Public Enterprise Bond Law in 1899 to raise 60 million yen in bonds over 20 years for construction funding in Taiwan, with 30 million yen earmarked for railway construction. However, the Diet revised the plan to raise 35 million yen over 10 years, cutting railway funding by 1.2 million yen. With limited funds, Governor Kodama Gentaro and Civil Affairs Chief Go Shinpei adopted a fast-track extension policy, enabling initial progress on the North-South Railway. However, this policy came at a cost, with rushed route choices in areas with unclear hydrology, and frequent rebuilding of temporary river bridges, resulting in inconsistent track widths that complicated connections and had lasting impacts on Taiwan's railway quality. During the Japanese colonial period, railway funding accounted for nearly half of Taiwan's construction budget. Many key infrastructure projects relied on railways to transport construction materials and personnel, including Sun Moon Lake Hydropower Project, the Qian'an Canal, and the construction of the Western Trunk Line. During the Qing dynasty, transportation between northern and southern Taiwan was challenging, and trade relied heavily on ports. Dadoqing's primary trading region was mainland China, with Tamsui Port as the main entry and exit point for goods, where cargo was unloaded. However, due to sediment accumulation from upstream logging, the Tamsui River's mouth became shallow, impeding larger ships. With inconvenient river and undeveloped road transport, the Japanese repurposed tracks from dismantled Qing-era railways for constructing the Tamsui line to transport railway construction materials. After Japanese rule began, trade shifted towards Japan, with Keelung Port becoming the primary port. Another goal of building the Tamsui line was to transport goods from Tamsui and Dadoqing to Keelung Port for export to Japan. The Tamsui line was completed and opened on August 25, 1901, and an inauguration ceremony was held on October 25, 1901, along with the opening of Taipei's second-generation train station. By 1904, the southern section of the Western Trunk Line had extended northward to Zhanghua, while the northern section had reached Sancha River in Miaoli. The most challenging stretch was between Zhanghua and Sancha River, primarily due to the need to cross the Don River and Dajia River and to excavate multiple tunnels through mountainous terrain. With the outbreak of the Russo-Japanese War in 1904, Taiwan's agricultural and forestry products became essential wartime resources, necessitating efficient north-south transport, particularly for transporting rice from Zhanghua and Taichung to Keelung Port. Since the central section was still incomplete, the Japanese constructed a cableway and a light railway between Bagongkang and Huludon to overcome the substantial height difference of over 100 meters in the riverbed. This temporary setup, completed in 1906, served both military and civilian transport, carrying construction materials and providing limited passenger services. Additionally, a circular approach route was designed to facilitate the ascent to the Holy Plateau. When the Western Trunk Line was completed, rail transport was primarily for freight. Most stations were located near port areas to facilitate cargo handling. The railway significantly boosted freight transport across Taiwan. Imported goods landed at Kaohsiung's Hamesan were transported via the port railway, connected to the Western Trunk Line to Keelung, and reached Keelung Station via the Keelung Port Railway. There, goods were unloaded directly at the West Wharf beside the station and loaded onto ships for export to Japan. The Western Trunk Line was completed and operational by April 1908, reducing the multi-day journey between northern and southern Taiwan to a single day. However, the grand opening ceremony was delayed by 6 months due to a plague outbreak, finally held in October 1908. The Japanese government held a grand opening ceremony to publicize its achievements in governing Taiwan to both domestic and international audiences. Foreign dignitaries were widely invited to Taiwan, along with journalists. A committee was established, chaired by Railway Minister Hasegawa Kinsuk, to oversee city renovations, construct railway saloon cars, build railway hotels, create the Taichung Park Pavilion, and erect a monument marking the Tropic of Cancer. Although the main ceremony took place in Taichung, the celebration involved a series of rail tours along Taiwan's Western Railway. Guests arrived via Keelung, stopped in Taipei, attended the ceremony in Taichung, and continued southward to visit Tainan and Kaohsiung before returning north. This event achieved substantial publicity, impressing foreign guests and introducing Taiwan's progress to the world. The railway saloon car used by dignitaries during the grand opening was the first of its kind in Taiwan's railway history, crafted in 1904. Built at the Taipei Railway Workshop, this saloon car was designated for the exclusive use of the Governor-General of Taiwan and honored guests, hence the name Governor's Saloon Car. During construction, the Taiwan Governor's Office brought in skilled artisans from Japan to assist the railway department in crafting the car's exterior and interior entirely by hand. While typical trains measured around 20 meters, this Governor's Saloon Car was only 13.9 meters long, handcrafted from teak, cypress, and other hardwoods. Carved wooden panels divided the interior into a lounge, bedroom, and restroom. The car's carpet and curtains, though over a century old, remain in pristine condition. Notably, this was Taiwan's first railway car equipped with electric features, including lights and fans, making it a luxury train that, even today, would be considered opulent. The Taiwan Railway Hotel, a 3-story Western-style building, covered 3,069 ping, with a building area of 620 ping. Located where the Shin Kong Life Tower and Asia Plaza building now stand, it was constructed in the summer of 1907 and completed in October 1908. Directly operated by the Railway Department under the Taiwan Governor-General's Office, it was Taiwan's first and only Western-style hotel at the time. Visiting members of the Japanese imperial family and notable figures in finance stayed here, with the first guest being Prince Canon Kotahito, who presided over the opening ceremony of the Western Trunk Line. Funding for the Western Trunk Line's opening ceremony wasn't solely provided by the government but also through public donations, marking Japan's first large-scale island-wide event in Taiwan, with significant public and international participation. Foreign dignitaries attending the celebration arrived at Keelung Port and traveled south by train, stopping at key stations, including Keelung, Taipei, Hsinchu, Taichung, Jiayi, Tainan, and Kaohsiung. Along the route, each city underwent thorough renovations to present a modern and progressive image, showcasing Taiwan's success and advancement. The second-generation Taichung Park Pavilion, completed on October 24, 1908, was constructed to commemorate the completion of the Western Trunk Line. During the ceremony, Prince Canon Kotahito of the Japanese imperial family, who presided over the event, was guided by Railway Minister Hasegawa Kinsuk to the pavilion for a brief rest. In 1908, to celebrate the opening of the Western Trunk Line, the Governor-General's office erected a Tropic of Cancer monument in Xiaoliu village in Shuisheng, Jiayi. As foreign guests traveled south by train and passed Jiayi, they could view the monument standing tall on the Qianan Plain. It symbolized Japan's influence extending from the subarctic Kuril Islands in the north, through the temperate and subtropical zones, and into the tropical zone beyond the Tropic of Cancer. The Western Trunk Line's construction journey began when the Japanese took control of Taiwan's railways in 1895, initiating reconstruction on the Keelung-Hsinchu section and, in 1899, beginning the Western Trunk Line between Hsinchu and Kaohsiung. Construction progressed from both ends. The southern section opened for service between Kaohsiung and Tainan in 1900 and extended to Shanhua Station in 1901. Meanwhile, the northern section connected with the Tamsui Line in 1901, with Taipei's second-generation station opening the same year. In 1902, the Fengshan River Bridge was restored. By 1903, the northern section extended to Sancha River, and the southern section reached Zhonghua. In 1906, sugar railways were laid, and construction began on the Alishan Forest Railway. At this point, the central section remained the most challenging and was still incomplete, leaving the northern and southern segments unconnected. It wasn't until the completion of Tunnel No. 9 in March 1908 that the entire Western Trunk Line was fully completed and opened on April 20, 1908. In early Taiwan, rivers fragmented the western region, making travel difficult and isolating towns, which limited their development. During the Japanese colonial period, railways were built not only for land transport but also to connect ports with the resources of the Western Plains. Overcoming financial and technical challenges, the Western Trunk Line was completed in 1908, greatly facilitating north-south travel in Taiwan. This advancement boosted prosperity in towns along the route and promoted regional industrial growth, including coal mining in Keelung, camphor production in Miaoli, rice farming in central Taiwan, and sugarcane from sugar companies. Goods from various regions were rapidly transported via the Western Trunk Line and exported through Keelung and Takao ports, which flourished thanks to the railway. However, other western coastal ports declined as rail transport took over their roles. The Western Trunk Line marked the start of railway development during the Japanese colonial period, while the Taitung Line became the second phase in the vision of a circular railway network. The year after the Western Trunk Line's completion, the Governor-General's office began developing the Northern Railway from Keelung's Badu to Ilan and the Eastern Railway from Hualien to Taitung, advancing the concept of an island-wide railway network.